What is going on, guys? Welcome back to a brand new video on the Red Type Politics channel. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you are new. And in this video, I'm going to be doing my mid-October presidential prediction. I'm going to do 2 to 3 more of these before actual election night, my late October, my early November, and my final one, the day before election night, November 4th, 2024. Election night is on November 5th. So let's get into it. One thing I did change in my last video, and I feel firm on it, is using 1, 5, 10 margins, which means the percentage that a candidate wins the state by. There will be no state categorized as toss-up. The 3 categorizations are safe, likely, and leaning. There will be a toss-up categorized, but I will not be using that. Let's get into it. So I'll start out with the Democrat states, and we will just go with it. So for Kamala Harris's safe states, California, Oregon, Washington, Hawaii, Colorado. We also have Illinois, District of Columbia, Maryland, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Delaware, Connecticut, Vermont, Maine's first, and that should be all. One thing I'm going to say is I'm whether to put New York and New Jersey within that column. They are super close to the point where they're going to vote within the margin of each other. For now, I will categorize them as safe, but they are on the brink of going to the likely column. Now, for the safe states for Donald Trump, very self-explanatory. Alaska, Utah, Wyoming, Idaho, Montana, North, South Dakota, Nebraska's third, Nebraska's first, Nebraska at large, Kansas, Oklahoma, Louisiana, Arkansas, Missouri, Iowa, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, South Carolina, Kentucky, West Virginia, Indiana, and Ohio. In some of my last videos, I've had Ohio and Iowa as likely in some cases, but I just seen different momentum in the state that is showing trending a little bit more Republican than I originally had. Florida is an interesting one. I have it at around a 9.5-10 margin. I'm not going to categorize it as safe for now. The reason why is there's some polling that does indicate a little bit of a closer race. I will be categorizing that state as likely, but I'll get on that later. So for right now, with the safe states, the absolute safe states, will be 148 electoral votes for Donald Trump and 191 for Kamala Harris. For the likely states for the Democrats is New Mexico, Minnesota, New Hampshire, Maine at large, and that should be all. With this momentum, with all the likely states for Democrats, it brings Kamala Harris from 191 to 212. A little bit closer to the 270 that she needs to win. As you can see on the bottom of the graph, that line right here indicates where the candidate needs to be. For the likely states for Donald Trump, this is where he's going to get a lot of momentum. Texas with its 40 electoral votes. Florida, which is 30. Maine second with its 1. And that should be all of them. This huge momentum brings him past Kamala Harris to 219 electoral votes. This is where Kamala Harris suffered, and this is where she needs to do well. A lot of these states with these bigger electoral vote counts, especially Texas, Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, where she is underperforming expectations, it doesn't seem that she's doing that great there. So, in this case, she needs to overperform in a lot of these suburban areas for her to do well. And that is not what you're seeing with these mail-in ballot votes that you're seeing come in. Early voting has started in a bunch of these states. And overall, it's just not good. The data that were coming out, especially in Orange County, that one was a surprise. The Democrats were up by like 14,000 in 2020. Now narrowly up by 1,000 votes there. That is not good, especially in a state in California that it's our home state. I would be saying the same thing about New York, but the thing about New York, it is becoming way closer. Right now in the aggregate, it is 10 points left. That's a 10-point shift to the right from 2020. That's not good for Democrats if they want to win, number one, the popular vote, but the Electoral College as well. They need to overperform in a lot of these areas. Now, for the last few states. Sorry, I forgot to categorize Nebraska second, as likely I just realized. But with all these states with 106 electoral votes as toss-ups, Arizona, Nevada, Georgia, North Carolina, Virginia, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. For the lean states, we have Virginia for the Democrats, and narrowly by the skin of its teeth, it's Wisconsin. You're probably asking me, why do you have Wisconsin going towards Democrats? Well, here's one thing. One thing I'm realizing, and it's very simple. I also categorize Nevada, and it's the same story for this. Really, this one is so close where I'm going to debate whether this video, whether to put it as going to the Republicans or Democrats. But I'll decide that in just a minute, and I'll let you guys know. But one thing I'm going to explain about Wisconsin, why it's so close, other than these other states, like Georgia, is it's very simple. It seems that Kamala Harris is doing a little better with these white suburban voters in especially Wisconsin, where Trump sucks for the suburbs. He sucks. One thing about a lot of these states, especially in the Rust Belt, is minorities are not turning out, especially black voters, for Kamala Harris. Obama said it himself. The brothers are not turning out. When he meant my brother is the black people not turning out for Kamala Harris. They're not turning out. That is an issue because if you see any defects in turnout, that means that she cannot do well. That is her whole entire basis of her campaign. The minorities, the white suburban voters, and the white working class. If one of them doesn't turn out, even one of them, it affects her campaign. One thing, that's the reason why I would put Wisconsin as for the Democrats, but for the Republicans, here's the thing. If turnout is lower, which it seems it is, everybody across the board is saying that. If turnout is lower than before, how can Kamala Harris do well? This is where I'm kind of stumped on where to put Wisconsin. I think most people would agree with me. But we'll get that to it in a minute. So, for the lean states for Donald Trump is Georgia, North Carolina, Arizona, and I'll get to the rest of it in a minute. But with this thing, I have Trump at 262, Kamala Harris 232. You're probably seeing a little bit of something, 2016, 2020. But for Wisconsin, I'm so tempted to give it to the Republicans or just lay off, which I might do. But you're seeing this difference in turnout. And a drop of turnout means Democrats have to enforce more. In 2020, we had pretty good turnout for Democrats. Same thing for Republicans. That's why the state was so close, within around 20,000 votes. We're not seeing that this time. Women voters are not turning out. The minorities are not turning out. Unless we see a difference in Election Day voting, which is very possible, the race remains close. That's where you're probably seeing a representation of the Rust Belt being that close within each other. They're all going to vote, most likely, almost the same. Maybe a difference between Michigan and some other states because, early voting in different areas. One thing I will say about Michigan, I'm going to go over to Michigan for a minute so I can decide on Wisconsin, is Michigan, you're seeing so much of the Arab vote, surprisingly, going for Jill Stein. In the whole Rust Belt, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, she has 150,000 votes, as in the other category. She's estimated to get. That is not proven yet, but she's estimated to get 150,000 votes in the Rust Belt. If that holds, Kamala Harris is screwed in the Rust Belt, because she's not getting those minorities that are supposed to for Democrats to turn out. That's how they really won the whole Rust Belt in 2020, was because the minorities turned out. The highest turnout was a record turnout. We've never seen anything like it. We're not seeing it this time. We're closer to 2016 turnout, really 2012, 2016 turnout than anything. But the one basis I think we're all getting around is Trump is starting to turn this wheel. And what I mean by wheel is you're seeing at the end of 2020, Trump surged in the polls. He went up. saw the same thing in 2016. Now, you're seeing him surge. You saw the surge in poly market. He was up by 10. Predicted, Trump actually took the lead, and that was I predicted is very skewed to the left. They were really, really wrong in 2016, so that's why I don't use them. That's why you see me use poly market. I'm not going to endorse them because I don't support gambling. But, I mean, it's just so close. It all comes down to the 3 states. You would probably think, oh, out of all 50, it comes down to 3. So, I'll say this. Pennsylvania is a little likely out of the 3 to go to Trump, which brings him over the top to 281 electoral votes out of the 270 that he needs. The one thing about Pennsylvania, minorities are not the only thing holding up the state. It is the white working class. You saw that in 2016, where Hillary Clinton was supposed to win the state by 7, according to the polls. Really, she was supposed to win the whole Rust Belt. She was even supposed to win states like that. The whole Rust Belt was supposed to be blue, but that was not the case. But the reason why I have Pennsylvania out of the whole bunch going to Trump more likely is because of the big cities. Philadelphia shifted right, when the whole country shifted left. If you're seeing these heavy shifts come out of these big cities, Kamala Harris needs to have a lot more groundwork. Pittsburgh, State College, Erie, Northampton, even Scranton, where she's going to have lower turnout than she did, and it's going to skew to the right. I find it hard to where she can find extra votes to pull out. She needs to pull out votes in this area that voted for Biden, the Philadelphia area, the Scranton area, the Northampton area. She needs to pull so many votes out of that area because of the heavy shift to the right. I don't see it happening. I don't see it happening for her, which is why I'm going to give Trump Pennsylvania by that margin. I have it around nearly a 1-point margin. It is nearly a 1-point margin. I have like 0.95. Michigan. I talked about this before. The Arab voters are surging heavily for the third party. The reason why is because of the war in the Middle East. The escalations with Iran. The more escalations around foreign affairs. They decide that. That's why they voted for Donald Trump in 2016. Number one, you didn't have as much turnout as you did in 2020 with these minorities. That I get. But if the minorities are not turning out for either of them, it's not good for either of them. That's why it comes down to the one, which is the white working class. Trump's been campaigning all over the state. Kamala Harris has been focusing on Wayne County and all these areas. One thing I will say is, if you see the country vote like 4 points to the right, 3 points to the right, more than it did, the Detroit area, like Wayne County, Oakland, Macomb, they're going to vote almost with the country. They're going to shift with the country. You saw that in 2020. You saw that in 2016. This is probably my highest hot take. I'm going to give it to Trump. Closest state out of them all by far. It's going to be like a 0.2 margin. 0.1. But from where it stands, especially in the Detroit area, you're not going to see the turnout that you did. In the Kent County, in Grand Rapids, in a lot of these areas, in this little area, I call it the little panhandle of, well, not this panhandle, but the other panhandle that they have, the Iron Range. The Iron Range that Minnesota has, the little range, the central range that Michigan has. If they don't turn out, the Democrats lose the state. Same thing can be said about Wisconsin. The issue I have with Wisconsin is the effect from Tim Walz that he has in the area that Obama won by a lot. I'm so stumped whether to give it to Kamala Harris or Trump. But I will say this, like I said before, if the bunch is going to vote for Donald Trump, then all of them are likely to vote for him. So for now, I will give it to Donald Trump. This is supposed to change. I'm going to do a little more research before I give my final prediction. Like I said, that's why I'm doing 3, to be safe. But for now, this is what the prediction is. Like I said, I'm a little stumped on Wisconsin. Same thing with somewhat Michigan. But the other states, I think we're all pretty affirmative. So, this is a little ironic. Donald Trump gets 306 electoral votes. Kamala Harris gets 232. This is the same repeat. 2016 and 2020. Well, 2016 did have the faithless voters, sorry. And you're probably going to see that again, maybe. But for now, this is what it shows, 306 to 232 again. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. I will be coming out with my Senate, Governor, and House maps soon. Don't know when that will be, but it will come out soon. But yeah, I enjoy doing these videos. Thank you guys for watching the last video as well. That one was a little more important than some of my other ones. Just to make sure that the community is safe, in my perspective on things. But yeah, thank you guys for watching, and Red Tie out.